Good day, economic students. Today I would like to discuss chapter 4 with you, the business cycles. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick video on chapter 4 and show you exactly what to focus on and how to study for this for a test. And this is for Management Economics Free. Okay, so let's look at a business cycle from this slide. Now this slide normally shows you everything you need to know, okay, because this is a business cycle. What is a business cycle? A business cycle is how the economy performs in different time periods. Okay, so let's take an easy example. Let's take the seasons of a year. You have winter, you have summer, you have spring, and you have autumn. Different seasons during a year. Now exactly the same, the economy has different performances throughout a year or throughout a lifetime or throughout a certain number of years. Okay, so that's what we look at from this slide. We show you the economic performance of a country. So if you take this graph, this is your economic activity on this axis, and on this axis is your time. So here's your economy, let's say in 2005. Then as you increase your economy, you're actually moving along on the timeline. Okay, so 2005 is very different than 2017 maybe. Okay, so that's maybe 2017 is here, 2005 here. So you can see there's different growths in the economy during those times. So this is exactly what this chapter tries to explain. Is it paints a picture of how the economy is actually growing in different phases. Okay. Now we have 4 phases in the business cycle. We have a boom phase, a slump phase, a recession phase, and a recovery phase. Okay, so those are the 4 main phases and the 4 most important concepts to understand: boom phase, recovery phase, slump phase, recession. Okay, those are the 4 phases your economy goes through in its lifespan throughout the years. And that's why you'll see that this process of a business cycle is repeated throughout time. So let's say this is 5 years in the economy, then it will again show the next 5 years as having the same type of pattern, okay? Because every economy goes to a boom phase where everything is going well, then it slumps down into a slump phase, then it might go into a recession phase, and after a recession it goes into a recovery phase. Only small outliers like the Great Depression showed us where you can actually go from a recession phase even more down into a depression. But normally the economy moves out of a recession into a recovery phase. Okay. So that's very important to understand. And what is, after the 4 phases, what I want you to do is to understand what is happening in each one of these phases. So for instance, what is happening in a boom phase to, let's say, the economic growth, to the unemployment, to inflation, to monetary policy, to imports, to credit, stuff like that. So you need to understand what is happening to different variables within each phase of the business cycle. So if I ask in a test, okay, the economy is in a boom phase, so what is happening to economic growth? You say, okay, the economy is growing, so the economic growth is increasing. What is happening to unemployment? Unemployment is decreasing in a boom phase. What is happening to imports? People have more money, so they buy more imports, so imports rise. Okay, so these are the type of questions I can expect from you. So what is happening to all of those variables? And that's also why in class I told you to summarize everything in a table, where you put your, in your column tables, you put your 4 phases, and in the rows column, in the row table, you put everything that all the variables that you need to go and figure out. Okay, so that's very important. So let's look at some of these variables. Now I'm just quickly going to run through them. I'm not going to go into detail in every one of them because the chapter explains them very nicely in the textbook. So let's just take a recovery phase. Let's take a boom phase. Let's take the easier one, a boom phase, okay? So here's your activities surrounding a boom phase. You know a boom is above the trend line increasing. This is a boom phase. So this entire line is the boom section. So let's look at what is happening to different variables. How many variables can you identify that's changing in a boom phase? Let's see. I can see exports, inflation, central bank's response, which is monetary policy, employment, wages, spending, investment, credit, savings, imports, current account. All of those variables are summarized here. So I can ask you, okay, the economy is in a boom phase. What is happening to the current account, the imports, the credit, and the exports? You say, okay, I know exports are falling in this section because countries are importing more and I don't have to export that much. Current account deficits are actually decreases. There's a depreciation of your currency, okay? Or the current account deficits actually increase, sorry, and there's a depreciation of your currency. There's more imports because people have more money. There's more spending. There's more demand for credit, and there's less savings because people have more money to spend, so they save less, okay? And inflation starts to rise, and that's one of the main reasons why we have restrictive policies in a boom phase, but I'll get to that later on. So these are all the variables that changes with the business cycle in a boom phase. So you need to be able to do this for each and every phase. So go into your chapter and maybe highlight what is happening in each phase and study that. Okay, this chapter requires some study. You can't just figure it out as you go along unless you understand economics perfectly, but you still need to study it before you can understand it. Okay, so rather go and study this, and then after you've studied it, you can start figuring out how it works and how you can understand it better, and maybe summarize it for yourself to study it easier. Okay, so that is the main section on the business cycle. So just to repeat, if we go back to our business cycle graph, here's your business cycle. It has a boom phase, which is above the trend line, and it peaks, and it goes down into a slump phase, and it goes down into a recession phase, and then it reaches its lowest point, and then it goes up into a recovery phase. Okay, so that is part 1 of chapter 4 that you need to understand, is the business cycle, how it looks, how it works, and how each one of those variables can be influenced in each phase. Okay, so what will happen to all of those variables in each phase? So please go to the textbook for that section. It's only a couple of pages, but it's very valuable. So section 2 on chapter 4. The second section, I'll go through 3 sections. So section 1 was just how it looks, what is a business cycle, and the 4 different phases. Okay, just a quick analogy on how to use the business cycle or understand it better. Like I said in class, you've all been in a relationship sometime in your life. You've all ended a relationship maybe in your life, unless you're lucky and probably still in the first one. But let's talk about the business cycle in a relationship, because it's exactly the same. So let's start with the boom phase in your relationship. Everything is going well, lovey-dovey, and you're in love and everything. So what is happening in a boom phase? You're sky high, everything is high, and everything is going well. Now, you reach a peak. That is when you're at your best. Okay. After that peak, the relationship starts to drop into a slump phase. You're still in a relationship, but you're starting to feel, okay, the talk is coming, we need to change some things because things are stagnating and so on. So the slump is coming, and you're in that slump now. After you've reached the slump, into the slump, you probably have a talk and you break up. Okay, so you have your breakup and everything is going downwards for you. Here you start watching movies alone, you eat all the chocolates you can find, and everything is just going pear-shaped for you. Okay, up until a turning point, up until you reach a turning point in your life where you say, okay, no more, I cannot sit alone and watch movies all day, so I have a turning point in my life where I decide it's time to go out again, meet new people, make new friends, and get out again. So what do? You reach that turning point and things start to look up. The first night you go out, you feel better, then again you go out and you feel better, and you start meeting maybe someone new, and everything is going well, up until you get into a new relationship where the boom starts again. And then the whole process repeats itself. So just like the relationship lifespan and the relationship structure and growth and fails, the economy is the same. It grows up until a point, then it slumps down, which slows down, and then it's a recession, which just goes down dramatically, and then it moves again into a recovery phase. Okay, so that is section 1 that I want to explain to you. Section 2 is all about the indicators. So let me talk about the indicators. What do we use indicators for? So let's just go to the slides for indicators. So here's all the slides you can study for the business cycle. I'm not going to go through each one of these. Okay, just before we do indicators, let's quickly do this, because this is very important for you to understand, especially for future articles or future chapters. So we talk about policy a lot in chapter 2, and we're going to talk a lot about it in chapter 9 and 10. So what is policy? Policy is when authorities that influence the market. So let's talk about authorities. There's only 2 authorities that can really influence the market. It's the government and the Reserve Bank. The government uses fiscal policy, the Reserve Bank uses monetary policy. So both these authorities can influence the economy. Okay. So how do they influence the economy and why? And we can see this in the business cycle. The one thing that we want in a business cycle is we want stability. Stability meaning you want as less up and down swings as possible, or as small up and down swings as possible. So you want your economy to be as close as possible to this trend line. Okay. Now, if you take this one, this is now your economy's business cycle. It's economic growth pattern. You grow, you decrease, you grow, you decrease. Now, can you see here, the upswings away from a trend and the downswings away from a trend are quite large. Now, this creates instability. Instability does lead to less investment, which leads to less economic growth. So the more stable you are in your economic growth and your patterns, the easier it is to invest, and as it gets easier to invest, people can spend more, and thus your economy grows. Remember, that's all that a business cycle is. It's about looking where the economy is going to be, because I cannot change what's happening here at this moment in time, but what I can do is change what's going to happen in the future. So I can't change the economy in 2017, but I can change the economy or my economic decisions in 2020, because I haven't made them yet. Okay. So if I know today the economy is going to be in a recession in 2020, what do? I don't invest yet. Okay. But if I know the economy is going to be in a boom in 2020, then I invest now, because then at that time my business is established and I will profit a lot. That is exactly why we study business cycles in management and so on. So let's look at this policy section. So your downswings and upswings you want to be at as small as possible. So this is a downswing, this is an upswing. The downswing and upswings are the distance it is from the trend line to the actual growth, or the trend line to the actual decrease. Okay. So what do you want to do? Policy is used to infiltrate the market or the economy and make these upswings and downswings as small as possible. And they do that to be counter-cyclical, meaning if your economy is in a boom phase, your policy is restrictive. Okay. Your policy is trying then to decrease the economic growth, or not decrease the economic growth, but confine it to some degree. Okay, so that's how they are counter-cyclical. And if your economy is then in a slump phase or recession phase, your policy will be expansionary, meaning it's the opposite of where your economy is at. So if the economy is growing, then people normally, or the policies are normally restrictive, because that is a time when they can actually increase their reserves and increase their power to maybe make sure that they can spend more in times of a recession, the authorities. Okay, so that's exactly how it works, and we call that counter-cyclical. And here you can see the diagram of a counter-cyclical policy. A counter-cyclical policy is actually just one that decreases these upswings and decreases the downswings. So they are counter-cyclical, meaning they do the opposite to where the economy is going or at the moment. Okay, so that is exactly what the policies do, and it's also important to know what's happening here, because in a test I can say, okay, the economy is getting in a boom phase. What is happening to interest rates? Now you need to know that interest rates are used by the Reserve Bank to stimulate or restrict the economy. Now if your economy is in a boom phase, your interest rates are probably going to have to increase, okay, to restrict the economy. And why do you want to restrict them? Just a simple answer here. Why is a boom phase sometimes bad for you and not always good? Because remember the concept of inflation and economic growth, that cannot happen at the same time. You can't have low and stable inflation and high economic growth at the same time. So when your economy is growing, people get more money, so they demand more products, and that increases the inflation. So inflation will always rise if your economy is growing. And that's one of the reasons why you actually want to put restrictive policies in to counter that increase in inflation. But again, growth is the most important objective here. So that is policies for you, just to understand that better. So understand the word counter-cyclical. And here's just another one which shows you, the blue line shows your economy growing and then decreasing. And you can see the large up and down swings away from the trend line. And then you have your counter policy. After the policy has been implemented, this is your new business cycle line, and it shows you how the policy have actually decreased this line, or this distance between the trend line and the downswing, and the trend line and the upswing. Okay, so that is the first section, quite a lot, but everything I've just explained is in the slides also and in the textbook. So you can go through this, shows you what policies will do in different phases. Again, remember your 4 phases: recovery phase, boom phase, slump phase, and recession. Okay, so let's talk about indicators very quickly. So indicators are used to analyze a business cycle. Normally in a business cycle, you don't know exactly a business cycle of a country, but you have indicators you can look at to see where the economy is heading, where it was, and where it's going to be. That's exactly what indicators do. They indicate to us where the economy is going to be. So what do? We have 3 questions we ask. Where are we? Where are we going? And where were we? Now these indicators, there's 3 different indicators that can answer each one of these questions separately. We have the Reserve Bank's coincident indicators, which tells us where are we in an economic process. So let's take, we'll do an example later on. And then where were we? We have lagging indicators, and then where are we going to be? The most important one is the leading indicators. It shows you where your economy is actually going in the process. So let's just talk about leading indicators quickly. So let's take these leading indicators. These are some of your leading indicators: a business confidence, share prices, major trading partners, commodity prices. Okay, so let's talk about business confidence. There's a variable, business confidence index, that is measured in each country. Now, if that variable is increasing, if people are more confident to invest in business and open businesses, then we know people are probably going to do that, and the economy is going to grow maybe in a few months' time. So if the business confidence is high today, then it means in a couple of months, these businesses and their sales and their profits will be seen in the economy. You understand? So it leads the economy. So this leading indicator happens before the economic growth is going to happen. So it tells you if your indicator is increasing today, it means tomorrow or in the future, your economy is also going to grow. So it gives you valuable insight onto where your economy is going to be in the future. So let's take, for instance, the business cycle. If my indicator is in a boom phase, it means my economy is in the previous phase still a slump phase. You understand? Or I can tell you the economy is in a slump phase, so where is your leading indicator going to be? He's already in a boom phase, increasing. Okay, because the leading indicator leads the economy, so it's happening before the economic growth happens. Okay, so that's very important to understand what leading is. Lagging is exactly the opposite. So if your economy is today increasing, then your lagging indicators may be still in a slump or a recession phase. Okay, so if your economy is in a recovery phase already, then your lagging indicators are still in a recession phase. And if you look at them, then you can see, okay, the economy is maybe increasing, but the lagging indicators are still lagging behind the economy. And then your coincident indicators are just the ones that are moving with your economy. So if my economy is in a boom phase, my coincident indicators are also in a boom phase. And these indicators just helps you explain where your economy is at, where was it, and where is it going to be. So you can use this table, which is in the textbook, quite nicely. It shows you some leading indicators, coincident and lagging. Let's take some leading ones: growth in vehicle sales. So if your growth in vehicle sales are increasing today, let's say in South Africa, then we know our economy is probably going to follow this, okay? Because it was shown that growth in vehicle sales normally lead to higher economic growth. So if your growth in vehicle sales increases, people have more money to spend, and that means that the economy is going to increase in a couple of months' time. Okay, and then you have your coincident ones and the ones lagging behind. Okay. So indicators are just what it is. It tells you, it indicates where your economy is going to be, where it was, and where it's at. Using all of this in business. Okay, the last concept, or the last factor I want to explain to you. How do we combine all of this for business? Now, business is very important. Remember, the only valuable thing here for business is to look at the economy and make choices. That's what you want to do in a business. That's why if you run a business, you need to have some knowledge of the economy and how it works, because it can create a lot of wealth for you, but it can also create a lot of downfall for you. Okay, so you need to understand the economy. And what do I mean by understanding the economy? If you understand where the economy is going to be in the next couple of months, then you can make a choice. Okay? Because choices are made not for today, but for tomorrow. If you make a business choice today to hire someone new or to invest in some company or open up a new tuck shop, you're not doing it for today. You're doing it for tomorrow. You'll only see profit tomorrow, okay, if you make a choice today. And that's exactly what we do in economics. We analyze the economy, but we don't analyze where the economy is because it's useless. We can't change the unemployment rate today. We can't change the inflation rate today. We can't change the growth rate today. But what can we change? We can change the growth rate tomorrow. Okay, the unemployment rate tomorrow. And exactly that is the same for a business. You can't change your profit today, but you can change your profit for next year. Okay, and that's where you make choices. You make choices on where's the economy going to be at next year. Okay, so that's why the leading indicators are normally the ones that will help you a lot here. But let's take a company. Normally when you run a company, you look at two things. You want to increase your market share, the number of clients you have, and you want to manage your cash flows. If you can do those things, you get sustained profitability. Remember, sustained profitability means you're actually profitable in continuous times. Okay, so not being profitable today and a loss tomorrow, having a profit today and tomorrow and the next day. That becomes sustained profitability. Now let's look at a company. A company have three normal processes it goes through. Firstly, inputs, then capacity, and then its output. So if you're a company, you buy inputs, you employ people, then you take them to the factory or to the shop, which is your capacity, or the land, and then you produce something which is then sold via output. So you put something in, you produce it at a capacity location, and you output it to someone. Okay. So in those three sections, there's different things to consider. When you consider inputs, you need to consider how much you want to purchase of your inputs, how much employment you want to get, and how you're going to finance everything. Then, in capacity, you need to look at your capital expenditure. Am I going to open a new shop, more shops, and acquisitions? Are you going to buy shares, and so on? And then, output. Are you going to market it? How are you going to advertise it? And how are you going to price the product? And all of these seven variables in here can be described what choice to make in a different phase. So I can tell you exactly what to do in each phase of the business cycle with this. So I can tell you not to employ more people in a boom phase, because that is when labor is at its most expensive. Rather employ more people in a recession phase when labor is cheap and oversupplied. Then you can employ those people and then retrain them and actually let them then buy someone else, let some company buy out a contract in a boom phase. Okay, so that's what you can do. Well, let's take purchasing. This is the most popular one. So just think about it. Do you buy all your inputs in a boom phase when it's very expensive to buy from the factories, or do you buy all your goods in a recession? Let's take a chair making company. When did they buy wood, which is an input to chairs? When did they buy the wood? When wood is at its highest price or lowest price? They buy it when it's at its lowest price. When is wood at its lowest price? In a recession. So that's why you buy your inputs at a recession, and you know the economy is going out of that recession into a boom phase again, so in the next couple of months. So you buy it now low, then you use it, produce it, and you sell your chairs at a high price. That's how you make profit here. By looking at the economy and knowing where the economy is going to be at in the next couple of months, you make an informed decision. Okay. Capital expenditure, that's one of the big ones. CapEx, when do you do capital expenditure? Now you don't invest in opening a new tuck shop when you're in a boom phase. Why? Because you know at the later end of a boom phase, your economy is going to go down again into a slump phase. So that's why you don't invest in that in a boom phase. You rather do it maybe in a phase before that, like a recovery phase. You open already a new shop, and then you draw as much profit as possible in a boom phase to cover you against the recession and the slump that's going to probably happen later on in the stages. And then marketing and pricing, we all know pricing is easy. You sell it very low when it's in a recession because people don't have money, and when it's in a boom phase you have high prices because then people have money. Okay. And all of these are in a textbook that you can go and look at. So please, I have nice diagrams for each one of them that summarizes what to do in which phase. And again, the questions can be easily set to that. So that is chapter 4 in essence, just the 3 factors I mentioned, or the 3 steps. Firstly, understand what a business cycle is, then the 4 different phases and how each variable are impacted in those 4 phases. Then you go to the indicators. So the indicators tells you where the economy is going to be, where it was and where it's at. And then the third section was about how you use all of this for business. Remember, with business cycles and the economy, you don't make a choice based on today, because you can't change the situation today, but you can change your situation tomorrow and the next day. Exactly the same for economics. We don't make choices on investments and businesses and employment based on today. We make it on the future. And that's what we need to know, where the future of the economy is going to be. Where is the economy going to be at in the next year, in 2018? If you know that, you can invest today, because you know in 2018 the economy is going to boom and everything is going to grow. Okay, so that's just a hypothetical example. Okay, so I hope you understand it better. Please go and rewatch the video as many times as you need. I think I covered everything on chapter 4 that's quite important. And if you have any other questions, please email me. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.